So on to John. John's experienced Agile Coach, currently working at Sainsburys, I believe.
Yes.
Come to talk to us about Cumulative Flow Diagrams. So big welcome to John.
I'll just plug this in. Wait for the laptop to catch up. Okay, so yeah, I'm a big fan of cumulative flow diagrams. I've seen Burndown charts and burn-up charts, and I just think that cumulative flow diagrams give you so much more information. So, the general plan, look, there's a cumulative flow. What's all this stuff? Well, we've got a little legend along the bottom. What we'll do is we'll go through how you build that from scratch. So here we go. Build it from scratch. What can we tell from it? Interpreting your cumulative flow. Show you some common patterns, and then I've got some real ones from last year from my teams, and we can have a who can tell what happened here. But there are a couple of googlies in there, but so I'll have to tell you what really happened. But hey, you know, let's have a go. Okay, so developing the CFD cumulative flow diagram from the simple Burndown chart. So we generally, in Agile practice, Scrum or Kanban, have a great love of Kanban boards. So here's a slightly obfuscated Kanban board. It's out of focus, so you can't read it deliberately. That makes it horrible to look at. But what we've got here, we've got a to-do column, an in-dev column, ready for test, an in-test column, and a done column. Now, this team's got quite a lot of work in progress, but let's not worry about that at the moment. That's something we can improve later. Okay, so, oh, here's the animation. Look, to do, it's because I've only got one screen. And done, and the in progress. Okay, so all of this stuff is in progress. So there's our three basic divisions. Stuff we haven't started, in progress, and done. So, as we work through these things, they work their way, each of these works its way across the board, one column at a time usually. And in Scrum, is certainly where I've been introduced to it, we have something called a Burndown chart. And what we do you mind if I just come out of this for a minute? And now the plug is plugged in, I'll try presenting it again and see if my screen does what it's supposed to. Yes, it's doing what it's supposed to now. So I can see the next slide. It really does help to know what you're talking about, being able to see the next slide. Okay, so that's it, working across there. And here we have our Burndown chart. Okay, so what are we plotting on the Burndown chart? We are plotting the to-do plus the in progress. We are plotting the incomplete work. This line is telling you how many points of incomplete work you have. And when you've finished it all, this is a real sprint, this actually happened. When you've finished it all, you've got no incomplete work. That's how it's supposed to work. How many times does it ever do that? Experienced Scrum people? Not often.
Not very often.
It's not often, no. It just doesn't really, does it? Okay. So here we have our ideal burn down line, and starts from the number of points you've got at the beginning and it finishes at 0. Okay, and here we have a little highlight round. This is where we finished something. We burnt some points. This is why we call it a burn down. So we like to burn points. I have visions of people taking the cards at the end of the day and setting a lighter to the corner. But they don't do that because they want to have them in the done column for everybody to see. Okay, and there we are. That's the last few points of that sprint getting burned. Okay, so that's great. The idea of the Burndown chart is to show you your progress compared to the ideal line. And as we can see here, we were a little bit behind, and then we got a bit ahead, and then we sort of crossed over and got a little, and then we managed to stay pretty close to the line on this particular sprint. It's just a great example. Okay.
Did you frame that one, John?
I might put it in my talk.
Okay.
What about this one?
Throw that one away.
What happened
That
there?
looks a bit more typical.
Scope breakdown on it.
What was it? I mean, okay, so look, this arrow here, I duplicated it and then I moved it over to there. And it looks as if we've got exactly the same amount of scope undone at the end of the sprint as we had at the beginning. So what happened in between? What was this? Did we actually burn some points, or did we just de-scope something? This definitely looks as if we added something, or it could have been regression, and we've added something else. Don't know. We might have burnt a story, or did we actually just have a really unstable backlog? We don't know. From the Burndown chart, we don't know. It doesn't tell us. Look, there's all these events, and it just doesn't tell us what happened. It does tell us we've got as much work to do at the beginning, at the end of the sprint, as we had at the beginning. But that's all it tells us. So I think we can do a bit better than that. Okay, coming back to our Kanban, our to-do, our in progress, and our done. Okay, so previously, our burn down simply takes all the points in this area and plots that as a graph. So there's your burn down again. Now, I'm not such a big fan of burning down. I like to see positive progress. You just turn it upside down, right? That is the same chart, literally upside down. You can see all the prints upside down. Okay, now it's a burn up chart. Okay, sadly the line isn't quite at the bottom, but let's not worry about that for now. Let's plot that in a slightly different way, and we'll make it look like that. That's the same chart, but it's been plotted with this nice green for done. Green is good, right? So we'll plot done in green. So that's the amount of stuff we've got done. But what does this not show us?
Work in progress.
It doesn't show us what we haven't done. Okay. So what about if we plot what we've done and what we haven't done? Okay. So this is still actually that ideal sprint. Pretty much I've fudged this bit. Okay. So now, what does it look like for this sprint? Well, it actually looks like that. Okay, so this height here, which is on this tally just a bit bigger than a handspan for me, is the same as this height here. So that's what we've plotted on our burn down, but it didn't have this on it. And what you can see there, this height here is about the same height as that height there. I can tell you actually, but that's 96 and that's about 100. I think it's 96 and 101 if I remember rightly. So, we've now got a lot more information. We've got both pieces of information right in front of us. We can see that we got a lot of stuff done, but that actually we had a really unstable backlog and we did not manage our sprint backlog at all. Stuff got added. So, interesting, I wonder if the pointer will work on this. No, it really doesn't work. It doesn't reflect off the screen. How much of this actually is this? Now, I can tell you it's about half and half. Half of what we planned to do actually got done, and half of this other added stuff also got done in this sprint. Now, I'm afraid Cumulative Flow isn't going to tell you that, but Jira certainly does. When you add stuff to the sprint and then you complete them, it puts a little star against them so you can see what you planned and did and what you added and did. We can talk about plan to done ratio and agility metrics another time maybe. Okay, so let's just recap to this. We've got in progress, which is 3 columns, and we've got done. So, instead of just plotting not done and done, how about we plot all 3? Like this. So we're starting to build a cumulative flow now. We're plotting all 3. There's the to do in grey. There's the in progress in blue. And then there is your done stuff in green. And there we are. We're just going to label them all up. But our Kanban actually has 5 columns on it. So let's go one stage further. Let's start. There's our done. And then directly on top of the done, we'll plot the in test. And on top of the in test, we'll plot ready for test. And on top of the ready for test, we'll plot in dev, in red, because there's always too much of it. This is visual management. Always use red for anything you want people to reduce, because red is the bad sign, right? Okay. And then to do, we've just done that one in grey. You can use any colour you like, but grey is quite good because it's kind of neutral. When you haven't started it, you haven't made that much investment in it yet, so that's not a problem. So there we are. We have built the cumulative flow diagram. Well, what this is showing you is stuff flowing from to do. Let's just take this point here. Stuff flows from to do, and as you go across at the same height, it gets into dev, and then it gets through test. Our testers are obviously pretty efficient here. They've got through it pretty quickly, and then it gets into done. So that's just taking a horizontal line across the chart. You can see stuff is flowing from one side of the board to the other.
Colleagues are reminded that the last bus to Caswell Road leaves at 7:15 p.m. and any vehicles parked at Caswell Road must be removed before 7:30 p.m. each evening. Thank you.
Okay, so there we go. One very nice cumulative flow diagram. Okay, so we're plotting all the columns on the Kanban board. We can see what's in progress split into dev, ready for test, and in test. Okay, and there's a note on there about adding the ideal burn-up line, but I can't see it. We'll find that on another diagram. Okay, so what can we tell from a cumulative flow? I mean, it's great, it looks nice, stripy rainbow diagram. Okay, so let's take some examples. Okay, slightly idealised cumulative flow. We've got our to-do, we've got our in progress, we've got our done. Now this is not really Scrum style, this is more sort of Kanban style. It's a steady state, we've got the amount in progress here, and we've got kind of the same amount in progress here. Now, I'm afraid that happens in my Scrum iterations. We never seem to quite finish everything. It's not that we overplanned it, it's just that, well, why would you finish something and stop work? You just pick something else up, don't you? So anyway, this is an idealised basic cumulative flow. So what's going on here? In a certain amount of time, just happens to be a 10-day iteration, 10 working days, we have done an amount of stuff, and it took an amount of time. So we can do a calculation. Stuff divided by time is called velocity, okay? Which, as we all know, is an internal predictor of how much velocity we're going to get through in the next iteration. At least it gives us a fact-based place to start. Okay, now, just go back to that again. Let's do a different kind of stuff. You know, we measured stuff over there. Let's measure the work in progress. Now, if we take this horizontal line and extend it to the point where we get to done, we have something else. We have something called cycle time. This is the amount of time it takes for something to get from the to-do column to the done column. And what we can see, if we have more stuff in progress, we have more cycle time. Let me flip it back. Because we're operating at a certain velocity, these two are proportional to each other. See? More whip, more cycle time. Less whip, less cycle time. Okay. Anyway, there we go. Work in progress divided by velocity is cycle time. Pretty simple calculation. Why are we interested in cycle time? Anybody?
So you can use to predict your forecast, your next lot of work.
Kind of. That's actually what we use velocity for. Cycle time is how long does it take us, if we talk the Kanban ideal of I've started so I'll finish, like Magnus Magnusson, right? To avoid task switching, if you say, well look, once I've started something, I'm going to finish it. How many times does somebody come along with a JFDI request and go, I just need you to do this, drop everything and do this. So you have to task switch over to that. You have to do something with all the code and commits. You have to take a branch off somewhere. You have to go and do something else, and then you take this one across the board, and then you have to flip back to what you'd already done. So that all that task switching is a waste, right? If you could say we'll do that immediately rather than instantly, what you would do is you will put that at the top of your backlog, and as soon as somebody's free because they've finished something, they could pick it up. Now this is where cycle time gets really interesting, because cycle time is how long is it going to take before you can pick it up. Yeah? If your cycle time is what's this, 2.5 days, it's probably going to be on average 1.25 days before you can pick it up.
Just quick point. Does it mean that you assume that you have already ticketing this, well, in iteration, because normally that's the lead time until I ask you to do something.
Yes. Okay, so cycle time we are measuring going from to do across the board to done. Lead time is really measuring from when we say, yes, we will commit to doing this, to delivery. And done and delivery are not necessarily the same thing. Quite often what we do is we set our tickets to done when they're ready to be delivered, and then we deliver at the next opportunity. Maybe we're making up a big release of stuff. Not all of us are able to release every story as we get it done. When I worked at Travis, we had a release cadence. You had to get your stuff all signed up by Thursday lunchtime, and then it all got released on Monday morning. Every Monday morning. And that was great. Not everybody releases that often. Okay,
Sure.
We've got some people who are releasing several times a day.
So in the Scrum guide, it says that done is basically potential releasable. So when you're saying done, you mean
Potentially
release.
releasable.
That's the key.
That's the key, yes. So done is potentially releasable, whereas lead time is, yes, we are going to do this, we commit to it, to when it actually gets released. So that's a slightly different measure. Arguably more valuable from the customer's point of view, because here we're just measuring how long it takes to get across our board. Okay, that's interesting to us. But from the customer's point of view, lead time is a more valuable measure because it measures from when you told him you would do it to when you actually delivered it back to him. Yes, that's an important piece of Agile metrics, but that's not quite what we're doing here.
The cycle time there, John, that's the average cycle time, isn't it, as well? Because you don't necessarily know it's the same story that
No, you don't.
one to the other stuff. Yeah.
That's right. No, you don't. If all your stories were the same size and you processed them one after another, then it pretty much would be a true cycle time. But yes, this is an average cycle time, that's right. Okay, so that's the bit with the calculations. So now let's show you some common patterns that we see on cumulative flow diagrams. We'll start off with the most uncommon pattern there is. Perfect steady state flow. So that's what we've got here. This is just a steady state flow. Oh yes, we've got our WIP and our cycle time on there. But it's showing a nice short cycle time. So what we've got here, we've got a steady state thing. We've got pretty much clearly, these lines don't wiggle about very much. We've got all our stories are about the same size and everything's flowing brilliantly. Okay, so that's that one. This is much more common. It's the same sandwich, it's just got far too much jam in it. Okay, so what might we call this one? Should we call it that? Steady state with excessive WIP. It's still flowing, it's flowing very nicely, but it does look as if things are taking a long time to get done, and that's because we're doing a lot of stuff. Okay. What about this? Any ideas what we're looking at here? I think the important feature is these big bumps.
More erratic.
Yeah.
Erratic delivery. Yeah.
What's causing it?
Big stories, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
Big stories. So what we're looking at is the effect of less big stories. So instead of breaking down our work, what we've done is we've just said, oh yeah, well we've got to deliver all these things together. We'll just call it the one story. And then when we start it, we get this big bump. And you can see that with big stories, the cycle time is still fairly long.
It's not really true though, is it? Because you could have, it's a work in progress, i.e. you could have loads of stories. So it's measuring how many stories, how much stuff you've got work in progress. That could be one big story, but it depends on what your left-hand side, what you measure on the left-hand side is maybe story points.
Yes, it is.
That might be one big story, but that could be
Yeah.
a whole team working on 10.
It could be.
Then
Okay.
if you had 10 people working on 10 different stories, it'd be
It'd be more like that.
more like that because they would be
Yeah.
dropping.
Or in shades dependency, which you have. Shouldn't have things.
Yeah.
It just basically is work in progress.
That's right. But what's telling us it's big stories is these big bumps.
So I suppose
When you start a story, you get a big jump in
I
story.
suppose if people were getting blocked, it would be more like the red would start going up, but the green wouldn't go down, would it?
That's right. It would be a little bit more like that.
I agree with you. If you're looking at the troughs, then that's the number of stories.
Yeah. I'm looking at the way this zigzags rather than just the thickness of the line. So that's that thing. And like we said, we can have too many stories, or we can have. You see the way that one is reasonably straight. Certainly down here, it's reasonably straight, whereas this one jumps up in big bumps, and that's the big stories going through the stages. So that's what that's showing you. Okay, we went through that. Yeah, big jumps in the done, big jumps in the work in progress. Okay, so what's going on here? Well, when I worked in Barclaycard Digital, that is what we were doing.
Holding up for testing.
Yes,
Separate test team or something
separate
like that.
test team. That's what that is. That is the release test team taking a release every 2 or 3 weeks and going, right, we will integrate and test this release and you will fix the bugs. And so all this stuff never mind the thickness of this, it's this area that we're interested in here. So this is all the stuff that you're delivering to ready for test. And then the test team go, right, we're going to test that release. And they test it and test it and test it, and they go, yeah, okay, that's great. That gets released and they move on to the next one. Separate testing pattern. So there we go, we're just highlighting building big releases or the separate testing pattern, and those are the big releases. And you can see that actually from starting that piece of work to it getting done, it spent most of its time waiting for test and being in that test team. Oh yeah, this is what really happens. Not that, that doesn't really happen. You don't give stuff to test and they had test it for 2 weeks and it works perfectly. This is what really happens. So this is the separate test team with regression. Yeah? So you build all this stuff, they start testing it, they find a fault. So these stories here have actually been thrown up there. And then you hand them back, and then they find some more bugs, and it gets thrown up there. But what you can see here, although you were working away at this rate, every time they find a piece of regression, you have to stop and fix it. And you have to stop and fix it, and you have to stop and fix it, and that is actually slowing down your progress. You're not actually able to progress at this rate, you're progressing at a slower rate. This is actually because you're getting slower feedback. You see, you do something here, and you don't find out it's wrong until here, because the development team hasn't got an integration environment to go test it and get some fast feedback in. Yeah, I was just pointing those out. What do you reckon to this one? Any ideas?
9.
Yeah, it is kind of perfect Scrum pattern. Yeah. So you start your iteration with a load of stuff to do. All the work that's actually in progress is development. And then as you deliver some of that to ready for test, then the testers can start doing something. You deliver stuff, and at the end, at the beginning it's all dev, and at the end it's all test. What does this tell us about Scrum? Well, you can't have people who only develop, and you can't have people who only test if you want to do real Scrum. Everybody has to do everything, because there is no testing going on here, and there is no development going on here. So if you want to do perfect pure Scrum, you're really going to have T-shaped individuals, because in order to do that, you have to have T-shaped people. So that's kind of an ideal Scrum pattern. Later on, we'll see if we actually generated that from any of our...
John, you could also have people doing no work on that one.
Yeah, they call it personal development time.
Yeah. They could finish their coding and do no more work, so not bring any more work.
Yeah, well, the testers do their personal development time here, and the coders do their personal development here. Yes, that is a fudge around that. Yes, we do have personal development time at Sainsburys, and yes, they do that. They do exactly that.
You struggle at this point as well to actually define the difference between testing and development. If you've got the Scrum team which are doing the full cross-board development piece, because obviously they're testing up front, they're testing as part of their development and ongoing work as well. So it all kind of merges into one more.
Yes, if they're doing pairing and TDD, you don't need 3 stripes here.
Exactly.
Because it's in development and then it's done. Or at least it's ready for completed and ready for the product owner to have a look at, if you want to split that out into columns. But no, all of these are sort of making the assumption that develop and test are 2 separate roles, because they're separate columns on the board. If you've got pairing and TDD, you don't need these to be separate roles or separate columns. So there's somewhere to try to get to. Yeah, so I was just pointing out these points where can never remember my own animations, even though there's a tiny thumbnail on the screen. Okay, so this is an interesting pattern. This is more sort of, never mind the numbers along the bottom, they're not days anymore. This is more sort of a program pattern. You know that in order to get to the proposed release date on time, you have got to start stuff at this speed. So you try. But the problem is, that's faster than you can actually go. So you don't finish it at that speed. And the finish line starts to fall away from the started work. I've seen this in real life. That happened here as well. The problem is that the more work in progress you've got, what have you got? You've got more task switching, which means more waste. So if you insist on starting stuff at a certain rate, the more you don't finish, the more task switching you get, and the more you don't finish, and the more task switching you get, and the more you don't finish. We could go on for a while.
So that is a push system in operation.
That is a push system. Yes.
Pushing work onto
Yes.
the team rather than them pulling it.
That's where you're told what your velocity is. Your velocity is 30. Good luck. You know your velocity
Yes.
is 10.
We've allocated this many man-days to the programme. We're going to finish it on the 19th of November. So this is how fast you need to start stuff. Yeah. We've seen that style of programme management. What else have we got? Yes, so there we are. I've just extrapolated this line along here to show you that, to make it obvious that that's falling away. Right then. Let's get some real charts out from my teams from last year, and you can maybe tell me what's going on. Let me just crib the notes. Okay, you didn't have any notes. Okay, so I think this must be the notes. So, what have we got here then?
QA went on holiday.
Ready for QA.
So I'm not sure.
No,
they
it's
actually
less complicated than that.
So you've got large stories.
Yeah,
usually
I would say there's a few large stories here.
relevant to-
These things jump up in big lumps.
Did you have a lot of work in the last few days of the sprint? Or the developers just started the work because they had anything else to do?
Yeah. This is stretch, isn't it? That's stretch. It looks very much as if we go here, if we walk across there, that appears to pretty much equate with that. So it looks as if we delivered all the scope that we committed to. But
feels.
the developers, this team does have separate developers and
I was about
testers.
to say, it doesn't feel like they're necessarily collaborating well because it's very much the tester and the developer doing. There's not much impact of the tester, say, getting something finished or signs of throwing it back so much, I guess.
Yeah, I think stuff tested up pretty well. I don't think there was much in the way of throwing stuff back to development on this
It's got high
sprint.
rework because you started off at 38, yet you've got a lot more development than actually you started with. So basically things were thrown over the fence about you, and they came back and they had to do a lot more work development. So I imagine there's low quality in essence.
What I would say about this pattern is this is what we're showing here. We're showing full delivery of what we committed to, and we're showing some stretch. That's what we're really showing there. We'll get onto some cumulative flows that show quality problems in a bit.
They've added stuff that he's not even to do, so
Yes, they have, because they ran out of stuff to do and they couldn't help the testers, so they just went and got another story off the backlog. Yeah, that's what they did. What do you reckon to that? We've got our first delivery is way into the sprint. we've got at this point, we've got a huge amount of work in progress.
Testing was on holiday.
Well, it kind of looks like that, doesn't it?
It must be because there was a lot ready for QA and they
Yeah,
didn't pick it up until the 1st of March. They were skiing.
Yeah, they must have been skiing or something like that. Certainly, it looks as if the testers had stuff ready for test and they didn't start to test it until here. So, I suggest that what I remember about this sprint, I think the testers didn't want to test stuff until there was enough to test. Oh no, we can't just test one story. Just think about how much manual testing we would do for just one story. That's inefficient. Ever heard that one? Yeah, a lot of people have heard that one. Oh no, we can't test just one story. That would be inefficient. So
Depends on what context, because it might be there's part of that story they would need to run many reports, generate it. It might have a knock effect to many different systems. Whereas if you've got another story which is in the same area, it might be more efficient actually if they were both done at the same time, because you wouldn't have to then redo. Say if you've got a regression pack of 5 days, if you're trying to run that one story through, you would have to run 5 days of testing.
Yes.
If they run 2 stories by waiting an extra day, it's still 5 days worth of testing. It really depends on how much effort is required to test that piece of work based on change.
Okay, that's a good spot actually. So at the time that this particular team did this, I can point you at big stories, bump, 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 but yes, that is pretty much what was going on. The regression pack was 4 days and it was manual. They had automated testing, but they were still doing for every release candidate a manual regression of 4 days of work with 2 testers. But that is what drives you to not bothering to test stuff for days and days, because there isn't enough to test, because the testing was manual and therefore expensive. Now if you had automated testing, you wouldn't do that, would you? Because you would write the automated testing in here, and then you would be able to run it as many times as you wanted to.
Could it also be, if you've got a cross-functional development team, though, that they've front-loaded the build work and put back the test until later on?
Which would explain at the end why development tails off and there's just testing.
Sounds a bit waterfall though, doesn't it? Let's front-load all the development and test it at the end.
So I suppose one of the key signs here is always the fact that once they do start going, there is a steady rate of green. It's not like it's just solid yellow that would indicate they've just been very slow or struggled at it.
I think the thing with CFDs is the most important is the work in progress. If you look at red and look at green, how big that is, regards to Little's law, there's going to be your high cycle time. Therefore, there's a lot of things that are going on that can change.
Yeah,
So
I mean, look at the cycle time from there to there, or from there to
that is
here.
high risk. Regardless of
It is.
whatever's going on, we've got massive work in progress. That would be alarm bells for me. Because you're not working as a team.
Yeah, that's right. So another thing that I would say that this team was doing at the time they produced this cumulative flow is their mindset was not about releasing stories, it was about building releases. If you see, that's 2 different ways of looking at the same thing. I would say, when you've got a story done, can I get that released? I've done this story, can I get that released? These guys are going, well no, release 1.17 has got these stories in it, and until we've got everything ready for that, why would we bother to do a manual regression? It's still a bit waterfall thinking. Building releases, because you're actually doing a minute waterfall for each release. You're still not really flowing. Okay, let's move on. Couple of things to notice there.
Rework?
Regression. There's your regression. Okay, and the other one I don't expect you to spot. Okay, so what happened here? So what I can tell you happened,
Christmas?
no,
Somebody got sick.
it wasn't
I feel like I've
Christmas.
started something negative.
What, can we have a second Christmas? It's in January. It wasn't Christmas.
Russian Christmas then. It's in January.
How many days are they adrift? 11?
Did
Yeah,
maybe an
it's
emergency live issue happened?
Yes. Okay, so a 4-day P1 incident happened here. Okay, so something just got finished off, probably on that day, but it didn't show until then. So then we've got 3 more days of the incident actually happening, but then still no more delivery. So these 4 days are like 1, 2, 3, 4. That takes us to here. There. So, what happened for the rest of the sprint?
Trying to pick up and remember where you were, I guess.
Sort of.
Yeah.
What I have observed over quite a few cumulative flows is that when you interrupt a sprint, the effect of the interruption generally lasts about twice as long as the actual interruption. So we had 4 days of incident and 4 days of, well, probably talking about the incident and getting ready for the witch hunt that was going to happen later. Oh, sorry, no, it's not called a witch hunt, is it? It's called a debrief.
Root cause
Or
analysis.
a learning exercise. Yes, that's right. It's the same thing though, isn't it? Okay, so they spent the rest of the time getting ready for the debrief. Okay. What do you reckon? They've delivered everything they committed to.
Went for half a leather and started working on every story.
Yeah, they pretty much did, didn't
Looks
they?
like the developers are potentially jumping onto the testing at the end because they're quite unequal. So they're working as a team a bit more, I guess, and being a bit more cross-pro.
No, they will
No?
probably do their personal development time.
Okay.
So yeah, they really did. They said, well, if you can't finish anything you haven't started, let's start it all.
Was this stuff carried over from the previous sprint?
Little
That's
bit,
why the
yeah.
testers were
Little bit.
Yeah.
Is this the previous sprint? No, that's not the previous sprint. Okay, so yeah, there's a little bit of stuff carried over from the previous sprint. Okay, big deal. We mostly have to work with that. If you were doing Kanban, it would just all be flowing across the board like that. So I don't get too screwed up about bringing a little bit of stuff over from one sprint to another. I don't know about you, but that's just my personal view. So yeah, they started it all. And then it took a long time to finish it all because they started it all. I think there were probably 4 developers here and something like 6 big stories in the sprint, and they were, well, I'll do this one, I'll do this one, I'll do this one. Yeah? And, oh yeah, something else happened in this sprint. There's another one of these flat lines in the middle. We had a hackathon. Now, you know what happens with a hackathon? You say, oh, we'll spend Friday on a hackathon. Well, actually, Thursday night. So, well, actually, it starts at Thursday lunchtime, doesn't it? But that means the people who are going to be on the hackathon come in late on Thursday. And they think about the hackathon, they don't do any work. So that's the whole of Thursday. It might only be a 24-hour hackathon. But the whole of Thursday is unproductive. And then, of course, because you've had them working for 24 hours, you have to give them Friday off, don't you? So that's Friday, unproductive. So that's Thursday, that's Friday. Hang on, why is it still unproductive right through until about the end of Monday, sometime into Tuesday?
They're still doing it.
They're still thinking about it, they're still writing it up. You've only had a 24-hour hackathon, but look, you've had like a 3-day disruption. The disruption generally lasts twice as long as the actual event. So there we are. Yes, disruption. And again, you've got this thing where the team are doing this and then at the end They're still thinking about building releases, not releasing stories. So they're waiting till the end because they've got stuff ready to test, and it sits there for quite a long time. They're thinking about building releases, not releasing stories. Okay. Well, we've seen that pattern, haven't we, sort of? It's almost the ideal Scrum pattern, that one. No nasty surprises.
Well, there is
How does that
because
work?
they're
Is that-
reviewing.
Yeah, because the ready for review just stops on the 15th, and they're still developing. So
That just means they pick things up as soon as it's ready.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what it means. Yeah, that means that the people doing the testing must have been all over it, and as soon as it was ready for test, it didn't spend a day. At the point when I sampled the numbers, there was nothing ready for test. It had gone from dev to test. So that's why there's no orange stripe down the far end. Yeah, generally a very good sprint. We patted ourselves on the back for that one. Nice early delivery. Delivered it all. Lovely, very nice that one. What happened here?
I'm going to go with no backlog.
I'd say no planning session.
Looks like nothing got done because they had to switch halfway through. It was then towards the end of the sprint.
Pretty spot on from Mike there. Sprint 0. No backlog. So they'd done this, they'd eaten all the backlog, made a delivery, patted themselves on the back, but they hadn't done any planning for what was going to happen after that big delivery. So there was no backlog. So they spent the first 4 days of the sprint writing stories.
Do we have product owners for that?
Well, this is a team that doesn't have a separate BA. There's a product owner that writes stories, but they certainly don't have a separate BA. So
Sorry, so the product owners write stories then, the product backlog items, is that what you're saying?
yeah, in this team they did actually.
On their own?
Is that
Yeah, sort of on their own. Yeah, almost on their own.
I think I'll go back to his question. Is that acceptable?
It's a Scrum Master's job to
It-
work with product owners to form backlogs. Part of it.
No.
Yeah, it kind of worked.
It's that kind of top level of just self-managing and whatever that next level above that is essentially.
Well, I think clear is that the whole purpose is the whole team's responsibility. Product owner is accountable for the product backlog, but he can delegate to BA, to the team, it's the development team. If they're not doing it, therefore the Scrum Masters fail with regards to what's meant by a product backlog, and they should be ready for the next sprint. So,
I think they would. I think the entire team, developers, Scrum Master, product owners were far too excited about making this big delivery to worry about what was going to happen afterwards.
yeah, we're just saying it's not product owner's problem, it's the whole team.
So it's
Yes, yes, it is.
interesting.
Yes.
So they got the backlog in place, the sprint backlog in place for day 4. But this is still a very
Yeah.
bad point.
Yeah, but then they didn't. They ramped up a bit, but they didn't really sort of.
But was it because they
Take off
rushed
at
it
this
and they've
point.
not got it in good shape?
Yeah, I
So
think
although
it
they
probably
had
was.
stories there with 100
Yeah, look,
points,
they've written a whole load of stories,
wasn't
but
very
that
well
doesn't mean they're
refined.
ready to go.
and the lack of refinement ended up causing a bit of a car crash at the end, really.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good interpretation of that. Yes, they'd done the great push and they had nothing in the backlog. And then, remember, if you have disruption to your flow, so this is clearly a disruption to the flow, what happens is the effect of this disruption always extends way beyond the end of the actual disruption. like the slipstream behind a train. You stand on the platform at Milton Keynes when those fast ones go through.
I think
Yeah.
you've got bigger dysfunctions than that, because if you look at the red, there's people picking up work before work's finishing.
Yes.
So it's not actually a team that's focused on either a sprint goal or kind of an overall vision as to what do we want to achieve in this sprint. It's like everyone understands.
Yeah, so if it's a small team, you could have people who are writing stories and people who have started working. Whereas they come off the writing, they're starting to pick up stories, which is kind of the same. Like, yeah, they're just task shifting from the writing story into the.
Yeah, I think the sprint goal point's pretty insightful. At the beginning of the sprint, they didn't even have a backlog, so I'd say you're probably exactly right. They didn't have a sprint goal either.
Yeah, I mean, but they're not cross-functional. They're not focused on as a team yet, which is fine. But they're literally all for themselves at the moment, because the red keeps going up and green stays stationary.
Yeah, things are not getting finished. Yeah, I think you're right. What do you reckon to that one?
Is that
Is the green on?
just thinking that the scope went from 100 to 200?
Yeah, that's the cumulative flow for that. Do you remember the Burndown chart that didn't go down? That's the cumulative flow of the same thing.
Did the testers go sick or something? Because they just, at the end, they were doing really well, and then it just falls off a bit at the end on the testing bit.
I think that what you're looking at here is a large amount of instability in the backlog. So you can see the scope has gone from like 101 to what? 197?
That's the difference.
The sprint backlog has not been managed.
That's like the difference compared to the Burndown is that you can show they almost hit their original deliverables.
Yeah, except that what they did wasn't their original deliverables, because otherwise this line would have stayed here and it would have been, yay, perfect sprint.
So John, on this one, if they had, as new work came in, if they had de-scoped some of the existing work, it's probably a bit late in the sprint by the time it came in, but if they had as they went along, that would, I guess, would have masked the increase in scope. It would have gone up a little bit, but it could have been flat.
But that's something you can do when you're operating sprints. If the product owner comes along and goes, oh look, I want you to shoehorn this in, you say, well, actually, we know what our velocity is, shoehorning doesn't work, what do you want to take out? But of course, you can only take out something that hasn't been started, because otherwise you're just making a mess. Well, ideally you can only take out something that hasn't been started. We know about JFDI requests. They happen a lot.
But it's quite a common pattern that teams don't have that conversation and they end up
They just go,
gets higher and
we'll
higher
add this on, and
they deliver that
we'll add this on,
points.
and we'll add this on, and we'll add this on.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So they ended up with as much. And the other thing is, when you add this stuff on, you find that what you were already working on gets shoved to one side. Look, there it is. So it's not like we finished everything we should have and then the backlog had grown. All this stuff is work in progress that's had to be shoved to one side to accommodate the I need it now requests.
Yeah, and then the next sprint after this would have been an interesting looking cumulative flow as well, I guess, because you'd have started with all of that in flight.
Yes,
You've got
I'm
almost
just
a
trying to
sprint's worth of
see
flight.
if this next one is the next one. I think this is the next one. And it just gets worse and worse. Looking at the length of the sprint and the dates, this is the same team. So what do you reckon?
Lots of carryover, right?
Yeah.
That was in progress.
Yeah, it's 50 points of carryover.
And then midway through, was that 2 days in, they then get around to doing their backlog and then add all the stuff they wanted to report into that sprint, which is an additional 50, so half of it.
Yeah, it's just completely out of control, isn't it, that?
There's also stuff that was done that became undone during that one. That's the first one I think I've seen.
Yeah. You've got regression here, you've got regression there, you've got regression there. This is just a completely out of control sprint. This is one where the Scrum Master needed to jump up and down and shout at people.
So it looks like they stubbornly sort of stuck to the target instead of saying, you know what, we're off target, let's focus on getting things closed. Just noticing how close the road is to the line at the top as opposed to
Yes, I seem to remember there were people saying things, but this story's in this area, and this one's in the same area, and this one's in the same area, so I'm going to do all three of them and test it at the end, and it just got completely out of control.
Sounds too familiar.
Yeah, we've all experienced that, haven't we? But yeah, it just got completely out of control. So,
for me though, it's about focus, and if I was a Scrum Master, this team, for the previous one, I'd say first of all, you haven't got focus in number levels. First of all, you haven't got sprint goal, because things keep going up and down and stuff. Great. Your whip limit is really high on both of them, so you have whip limit. Are you having the team to keep focus on what we're going on? Because you go back again, the next one.
Yeah, there's a lack of focus. This isn't too bad.
Yeah.
There's a lack of focus there.
And
This
more focus.
complete lack of focus.
So for me,
Absolutely.
There's lack of focus as dysfunction at the moment.
Yeah, they're not focusing on delivering stuff. They're just doing stuff and feeling good about it. Although why they should feel good about that much work in progress, I don't know. But
it's that kind of output versus outcome, isn't it? And
it is.
the output is, we're doing lots of stuff, we're really busy. But the outcome is, shit, it's going down.
Yeah, it's as you said, it's completely unfocused. It's like just totally out of control. That is. So I think this is actually the very next sprint from the same team. So you can see the same kind of pattern continues for a while.
So it looks like they've essentially had like a 4-week sprint instead of a 2-week, in essence.
Kind of. So what's this at the end? They've been doing this, they've been doing that, which gets unfocused, and that gets worse, and then this. What's this at the end? What's this all of a sudden? Oh, let's finish everything.
Kind of like a waterfall style testing at the end.
It's a release attempt.
Yeah.
That's what it is. This is a team that have not released during no releases, release attempt.
But that's a contradiction, guys. You said before that the green was basically potential releasable and not releasable.
Oh yeah, but they didn't actually attempt to release it until this point. This is a release attempt. How are we doing for time?
Pizza time.
It's pizza time.
Yeah.
So have we got any more? How many more slides have we got? Oh, about 2 actually.
Let's do those 2 slides and then we'll do questions after pizza. That's all.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good. That sounds pretty good. So what would you reckon to this one? Actually, I'll just tell you. Regression. You can see regression here. And what we've got UAT feedback coming in from stories that we thought we'd delivered, and people at the far end are going, oh no, that's not what I wanted. After stuff's gone to done, then they're going, oh no, I've changed my mind.
Should you bring it back from done though, or should you, if they change their mind, shouldn't you introduce some way of rectifying it with a new story?
Absolutely. So that is a more mature way to deal with it. This is the slightly immature way to deal with it, which is to take the original story and go, well, okay, we'll just push it back. We'll just push the water back into the tap.
I suppose it would depend on who projects it done.
Yes.
Some teams have the ability on behalf of others to say that they believe that story is done.
Yes.
But actually, the person that was accountable for done has seen it and gone, that's not what I asked for. Get that out of done.
Because it depends on your definition of done there, I guess.
Yeah.
That's 2 different things though. Someone accepting whether something's done and something's done are 2 different things. So if someone accepting done, they're saying, right, this isn't kind of acceptable of what we want and goes to when, but a team should say when we're done, this is kind of meets our quality set of deficits done. So in our mind, this is done. If you want it rolled back or things that say release, then fair enough. But in our eyes, it is done. So I think there's two different.
Yeah.
There's two different kind of.
Exactly. So what's happening here is pretty much exactly that. The team are saying, oh, okay, I've delivered it to pre-prod, it's done. But what's not happened is anybody from the other side of the fence spending any time on testing or looking at what's been put onto pre-prod, onto the beta system, to say, yes, this is, you know, we've said it's done, but
Well, I said
no engagement from the stakeholders.
So
Yeah.
basically they're
Lack of engagement from the stakeholders.
Yeah, late to the game. So.
Yeah. Okay, so it's going to be Q&A after pizza, so...
Yeah, great. We'll get some food and then come back for some Q&A. Thank you very much, John. And back to John for some Q&A on cumulative flow.
Yeah, so yeah, Q&A session.
I have a question. Oh,
Yeah, I
You go,
can
David.
flip back to some of the other slides if you want.
How did you produce your CFDs?
How did I produce
How did
them?
you produce these lovely pictures?
Okay, so yeah, let's flip out of this entirely and say, well, let's come over here and so there we go.
Can't see it.
TV's just
You can't see it.
It looks great.
Is it? I don't know what it is. Is it because the TV's turned itself off, or is it because my
Somewhat of a remote
machine
control.
stopped presenting?
I'll edit this bit out, don't worry.
That's okay. I'll unplug it for a moment, and then I'll try plugging it back in and see if
Don't
it
need
brings
the
it to life.
Darren?
No, yeah, that's what it. No, that's not what you want to see.
That's
Here's a video of how he produces his cumulative flow diagram.
Dog's very still.
Okay, yeah, the dog's very serious. No, we don't want extend. We want duplicate.
Whilst watching Dancing on Ice.
Right. Is that more like it?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I'll just pick up the laptop so I can fiddle with it and see what's going on. Right, okay, so as far as I can go. It won't let me out the screen, out the picture. Okay, so yes, I use Excel. So various of the tools we use, like Jira and Rally and so on, have got little reports in that produce these. But if you ever use the one in Jira, you'll find that you can't choose the colours. It just does everything in whatever colour it flipping fancies. And well, that's great if you want something that's really quick. The number of Scrum Masters who've said to me, "Oh, no, can you produce some automation from Jira? I can't be doing that in Excel. It's a case of it takes you minutes a day, guys. Get over it. When you do it in Excel, you can choose the colours. You can highlight the one you want everybody to hate and put it in red, and stuff like that. So yeah, here we go. So over here we have that's the data, and that is a stacked area chart. The data's in the opposite order because that makes the chart stack the right way up. For some reason, left to right, the chart stacks top to bottom. Yeah, Microsoft, what you brought you to that idea? Well, it doesn't matter. That's how it works. And I also produce a work in progress chart. Which is colour coded according to the amount of work you should have in progress, what you can get away with and what you shouldn't have. this is the team that tends to start everything at the beginning of the sprint and finish it at the end. They really do operate a batch system. Well, we have told people Scrum is a small batch system, and they take it a bit literally. They start everything at the beginning of the sprint and they finish it all at the end. I don't think that's quite what we want from them, but they're still doing it. And to make that work, I have this nice little table over here, which has some formulas for how many notional days of work there are in a certain. You've got the velocity, and then up to 5 days is velocity times something divided by the number of days in the sprint. Oh yes, times the desired amount divided by the number of days in the sprint, and it comes up with these numbers, and then I plot these things on the work in progress chart. But yes, it's all done with Excel. That wasn't intentional. Let's to go back. This team is using Azure DevOps. It's the most misnamed piece of software on the planet. Microsoft have attempted to steal the word DevOps for their own ends. They're not doing badly because they've completely confused all the recruiters that have talked to me recently. But as you know, Azure DevOps is only VSTS or TFS in the cloud, and the analytics in there are complete shite. Even though Microsoft did start in 2018 trying to write some actual analytics that should work, but they haven't really made anything that works reliably. Every second time I go in there, it doesn't work at all.
Well, that's for buying Power BI.
Yes.
Of course, it's another expensive analytics tool.
Yes, but you still need to be a TFS developer or a Power BI developer. You don't just extract the figures and make this.
Yeah.
So I do this the hard way because I'm not a TFS developer or a Power BI developer. Now I understand that Power BI isn't hard. I just haven't learned.
Yeah, there's some example
It
of
works,
the
it
management
works.
like Microsoft.
Yeah. Okay, so that's how I do it. So let me show you something else while we're in here. So these are all for sprints. This one is for an entire MVP. No, it's highlighted a bit rubbly. Okay, this is a cumulative flow for an entire MVP, which we started building on the 31st of October, and we actually delivered it on the 29th. No, not the 29th. 27th of Feb. Now, what I've been doing for predictability. Now we've got done. We've got test, ready for test, development, grey, estimated backlog, sky blue, unestimated backlog. How can you plot the points for unestimated backlog? Well, all the stuff that was estimated averaged 4.7 points, so I said, well, everything that's not estimated is a 5 then. Pretty simple, scientific wild ass guess as to how big everything that's not been estimated is. Reasonable assumption. And then this crimson stuff on the top, that's the bug load. Again, 5 points per bug. So those are the bugs that the product owner has agreed that we can leave until after release 1. Otherwise, that bug load wouldn't just be growing, it would be dealt with. So that's essentially tech debt. What can we see on here? Well, if you look at the line going up and see how close it is to the green all the time, you can see that this team estimates very consistently. We had good early delivery because they pretty much already had a white box generic product where they would say, well, okay, we've got this framework in C# where we've got a product, we've got environments we can spin up, we've got a test framework, and we can actually just get on with writing some code. So we had some good early delivery. What's that? Look at the dates. That's Christmas. Nearly 4 weeks of nothing. They were at work, they were getting paid, they just didn't finish anything. I don't know what they were actually doing, but they didn't finish anything.
Did you not have stand-ups where they were like talking about what they were working on?
Well, as the Scrum Master and a contractor, you'll find that major banks and large companies go, all contractors get lost for Christmas, go away for 2 or 3 weeks. So we had to leave them to do whatever they liked for 2.5 weeks. So no, they probably didn't have stand-ups.
So, how many teams are you doing this for? Or like, what sort of size team does this represent?
This is one of the 3 teams I'm currently working with.
Is that like a team of 5 or 6, something like that?
Sorry, run the question.
So how many people on the team? Like 5 or 6, or?
There are 7 in the team, plus a product owner and an engineering manager, and myself. So in terms of devs and testers, there are 7.
Okay.
There's a pretty ideal sized team actually. One of the guys is a tester who has turned to programming, so he's decidedly multi-skilled. And that's pretty useful because you can easily flip him from one role to the other, and he's quite happy to do both. So that's quite nice. So we have 1 T-shaped person out of the 7 in that team. That's progress. It's progress from 0. Okay, so what else have I put on here? I've put a line in 3 weeks ago, and what I do with this cone of predictability thing is I've got a line here that starts from the origin and it goes through the lowest point in the last 3 weeks, which is probably here. And the top line goes through the highest point in the last 3 weeks. And then we just put the sort of the median line in the middle. We just make it look right. There's no maths going on. This is visual, right? We stick the end of the line here, and then we pull this one up and down so it touches that. It's much easier than trying to do it in some kind of fancy linear regression. I could probably do it in code, but it's a lot easier to just drag the line up and down on the screen. So, in fact, that ended up being the agreed amount of scope in our MVP, which we delivered at this point there.
And if you went back a couple of months,
that
was your prediction? Was it broadly in line?
It started here. It started there. That is the linear regression of the growth of the agreed MVP. We initially started off with 203 points, and we story walled it. No, story mapped it. We story mapped it into the broad areas of what we were doing, and then we put all the stories in priority order, and then we said, okay, we know it's an MVP, but let's deliver it agile. Let's have release 0.1, a release 0.2, a release 0.3, and 0.4 and 0.5. Along the lines of 0.1 would be a very, we would just get our grid up on the screen so that people could play with it and find out how they could interact with it's a sort of a grid pattern product. 0.2 was to enable essentially save and load. 0.3 is a very minimum viable product. And then 0.4 and 0.5 mostly add things like admin and ability to view the logs and stuff like that. So by the time we've got to about here, we know that we are not going to manage 0.4 and 0.5 by the 6th of March deadline, because Sainsburys investment year ends on the 6th of March. And the product owner had said, I have to have something live before the 6th of March. So by the time we got to about the early December, we were saying, Kev, we're not going to manage 0.4 and 0.5. Can you cope with 0.3? So a little bit of horse trading, and we managed to agree with him what we could deliver in time, rather than just going, no, we can't do what you wanted. And the great power of metrics is that you can have that conversation. And the fact that the team estimates consistently means that we're not telling fibs when we actually make that extrapolation, that actually when we get to the end of April, we're going to be about here. The backlog will be up here by then, but at least we'll be doing the most important things, and that's the amount of points we've got for it.
So I think my question, you've answered it really well. I want to give someone else a chance to ask a question. That's really good. Can you, would you mind sharing like a neutralised version of that without your data in it? You know, just, or is it? Or selling it?
I think I could share. Yes. If I take the name of the product off it, not that it means anything to you.
Yeah, it's just numbers.
Even so, it's that's there's no team name on there. But if I just change the legend on that, I can maybe stick that on. How would I share it?
Well, if you send it
to
me, and then I'll put it up on Meetup or something. If you're okay with that.
Yeah, I'll be okay with that, because actually, when you take it beyond just looking at sprints, when you start to look at a project burn up, how many people have been involved in project management? You know about the S-shaped project curve? Yes, the S-shaped curve. At the beginning of a project, you're normally flat, and then you get this. It's a bit like taking off in a glider. You've got to accelerate. Once you get above X number of feet, you can take up maximum climb. And then when you get near the end of the climb, you're actually getting too close to the winch, and you've got to flatten out a bit before you let go. And project curves do something similar. You get this bit at the beginning where you're doing things like you can't really burn any function points because you're setting up infrastructure. You're doing sprint zero. You're building your containers and your AMIs. And then you burn all the points, and then come somewhere near the end. It's done it again. Did I do that? Yeah, it's my laptop. Come on, you. That's because I'm not presenting. Hang on a moment. Right, we'll fix that. We'll do.
Does anyone else have any other questions?
Yeah.
Well, actually, I'm just wondering. That's a nice product you released. What happens next? Because you started with 200 odd points. At the end, you had 400 pretty much in scope.
Yeah, we've got about 500
so
now.
many more bugs. Well, it's not a finished product.
No, it's not a finished product. So we've gone live to users. Business go live is probably this week. So they will start to put information in there, and they will also start to tell us what they don't like about it, because one thing that as analysts we know about our customers is they don't know what they want, but they do know what they don't want. Well, once they see it, they know what they don't want. So they will be saying things like, when I do this drop down, it doesn't do that. Or can I have multi-select on lines so that I can do stuff to several lines at once, and things like that. And they will produce a whole load of feedback. And the backlog, you can see the backlog's going up like this already. And I expect it will go up like that. But it will need to be prioritised as to what we're going to process next. Do we need to do the rest of the admin functions and the ability to view the logs? Probably not right now. But the things that are really paining our pilot users is what we will do next. It's plain old backlog management.
Anybody else got another question? Because I've got one.
Have
So-
you thought about going towards like no estimations? You said that, I haven't said the word good estimation, but it looks like they're sizing it to be roughly the same size each sprint. That's why you've got, it's not good estimation, there's just no how to size stuff. So instead of using story points, you could just use no estimation and just basically use number of stories, and then you'd have a better kind of cycle time, or understand cycle time, because it's on average on a story, not on story points. So
Well, this team does vary between on its story points between 2 and 13. They don't tend to use 1 in their range. They can never quite bring themselves to tell us something is easy enough to be a 1. That's just something they just can't do it. But we pretty much don't let them use any story points bigger than 13 because it's just like crazy. Something even a 13 doesn't really fit into her, and they're on 3-week sprints, not 2 weeks this team. We're halfway to no estimates on this backlog. This chunk and this chunk are not estimated, but they're on there. The average story size is 5, and it is consistently 5.
I mean, that's the whole point of using CFDs, that you can go towards. I'm not a fan of no estimation, by the way. I value estimation for the reason that it's about conversation, not about story points. But if you don't have that team, then don't have that conversation. But the whole point about CFD is that you can then move towards that because it gives you that transparency. So, and it looks like your team doing a great job anyway of doing that. If they're
Yes, they've been very consistent in their estimating over the 4-month period.
And ask the data question is that you can do this stuff by hand. And there's a game called the Kanban simulation, and it's a brilliant game, and it shows you how you do them with these graphs. I'm not going to plug, but I actually a Scrum trainer. I do PSK training, and we actually do that the simulation. And for me, when I first did that, it literally showed me how to do CFD. Like I understood it so much better by drawing it by hand. By getting technology to do it for you, it kind of it has that distraction or that kind of not that, you know, it's away from you. When you have it kind of do it physically, you have that kind of real feel to it. And there's like the working age limit as well, and all those things. There's loads of stuff that you could do, but yeah, for me, do it by hand first, and you'll get a real understanding of what CFD is all about.
Yeah.
Desperate to get my last question in.
Go on then.
The CFDs for the sprints.
Yes.
So this is great seeing it for the project, the release, but for the sprints, what you've been concentrating on mostly. You're using those in the daily stand-up? How do they go down with the team? Are they kind of getting it? Have you had to sell it as an approach to them?
Definitely having to sell it. So some teams are quite happy to look at something like this and go, yeah, great, use it in the retrospectives. Other teams, they're just not interested in that snake oil. Thank you very much. I'm here to program. I don't really care about that. Thank you very much. It's just, what's the next thing on the backlog? Let me get on with it. I'll put my headphones on. Yeah. So product owners love it because just going back to this is absolutely, to a product owner, this is absolutely lovable. This is showing him that there is some project management going on and that he does have predictability, and by the time you're this far down the project, your cone of predictability, it's not out here anymore, it's getting really small. And given that an awful lot of this stuff is still inside it, you know you've got that consistency from the team that you can predict what they're going to be able to do in a given amount of time next. CFDs I think they're useful as a retrospective tool, much less so on a daily basis in the stand-up. Teams are really not that interested at a stand-up level.
I guess I was to say, surely the day-to-day equivalent is, I guess, the working progress limits on the particular states, or so I guess WIP limits and this kind of go hand in hand for that, do they?
Yes, they kind of do, because when you don't have WIP limits, you get these big departures, big jumps like that. I mean they still do it. Have these big departures because they end up getting a big chunk of work in progress, and then they finish it, and then they make another one, and then they finish it, and they make another one. This is the team that tends to start everything at the beginning of the sprint and finish everything at the end of the sprint. I mean, recently they've achieved some quite good flow. If you look at that section there, quite good flow, but earlier on, not really. They're growing into it gradually. These things are always sort of slow and steady.
I mean, I think that's for me is that what's the point of daily scrum is for the team to swarm around the work for the next 24 hours. And this thing gives you transparency. So why wouldn't you want to use it? If they're not using it, they don't understand what the daily scrum purpose is. So for me, the whole point is to give you transparency.
But is this isn't granular enough for me? I want to be looking at the stories and
No, but exactly. It's just one tool. It's like the whole point is that your sprint, your scrum, the sprint backlog will give you transparency. This we go, look, we're doing too much. We've got too much. For me, if we got this thing halfway through there, you say, look guys, we're doing too much. How can we actually get stuff across the line? How can we swarm? We're not swarming. So it help you indicate that. For me, that's what it should be there for. And you use it in your retrospective and everything else.
Yeah, I'm just thinking on a daily basis, the Burndown chart, the team's kind of not that interested in quite often.
No,
this
they're
is a
just
bit
doing the
richer.
work and they'll finish it when they finish it.
This might be, it's prettier.
But it's harder to understand. So for me, there's a difference between CFD and the Burndown is that teams can really kind of understand the Burndown quite straightforward. This may be a bit more complex for them. But again, it depends on the team. And what I say is that it should be created, same as the sprint Burndown, should be created by the team. It should be created by the Scrum Master. Scrum Master should create it and show them, this is how we do it. But for me, it's the team. And if they're not doing it, then okay, you show them something they're not ready to use it. So, but I'll still do it as a Scrum Master to do it. So you have the retrospective, etc. But that's
Right, that's probably all we've got time for. Thank you, John, for bringing all of this great data for us to try and dissect. It's generated a lot of conversation, which I think is brilliant.
Fantastic.
Thank you. So
yeah.
one more time, a hand for
Yeah.
John.